everybody, welcome back to another edition of Midas Letter RAW! And guess who's back this week from international travels from the dark side of the moon?
Shady's back.
Shady's back.
Back again.
Guess who's back?
Shady's big.
Oh, yeah, he's a little Slim Shady. Anyways, Ed, so you've been traveling.
Yeah. From the land of Ire.
Ire? Did you bump into any leprechauns?
Had an interesting gentleman there who's related to some of the people that are related to some of the people, who's a member of the police force. Oh. And he's... a
Bobby. Do they call them Bobbies in Ireland?
Lagarda, or that's the name for the police. Instead of...
Garda?
Policia or police, they're called Lagarda.
In Ireland?
Garda. I'm not kidding. It could be G-R-A...
You sure you're not talking about Spain?
G-A-R-D-A-I.
Really?
Yeah. And anyway, this gentleman has a big motorcycle.
Okay.
And we were talking at this thing, and he...
Does he have a leather patch?
He said he's got a lot of leather on him, and he said, I'll pick you up, and he took me to these waterfalls and on the back. And interestingly enough, I didn't know this, Ireland is the country that has the second largest concentration of redwoods. The tallest tree is in the world. Because I was looking around.
You don't say.
Somebody in the 1800s started planting them there.
Redwoods, like sequoias.
Yeah, that's California #1, Ireland #2.
No shit.
And I was looking, I said, boy, that's a big tree. And so I started doing some research. These are monsters.
So do they have like
the tallest tree in Ireland is right in that area. But they don't like to tell anybody where it is because they're worried there's going to be
a stampede.
Like the oldest tree in California apparently is the location is secret. Because they don't want some crazy nut to go in there and chop it down, or
secret.
But anyway, there's some interesting things about Ireland, that's for sure.
Oh, I love it. Sounds lovely.
Yeah.
Anyways, so today we have quite a show for you. We've got Chell joining us from CurrencyWorks.
Sure.
And that's a bit of a crypto story / crypto
DeFi or
blockchain story.
Okay.
And that's an NFT story.
Non-fungible token.
Non-fungible token.
Which means you can't sell them. Right?
Yeah. Anyways, and we have Peter Espig here. He joins us from Sweet Earth Holdings.
Right.
And last but not least, certainly, Josh Bartch joins us.
Yeah.
And he's the CEO of Mydecine Holdings, which has...
Psychedelics?
He's gone to psychedelics after being a cannabis company.
Not enough juice?
Yes, proving with certainty that cannabis leads to harder drugs.
Oh, wow.
Anyway, so that's all coming up. Now, we're going to talk a bit about the price of copper. We're going to talk a bit about the price of gold. We're going to talk about the 10-year. We're going to talk about this year.
And cryptocurrency, or Bitcoin.
Cryptocurrency. Now, Edward, Gary Gensler, who's now the CEO or the leader
of the SEC.
Who was formerly the CEO of the CFTC, the Commodities and Futures Trading Commission.
Yes.
Coincidentally. He has now made a move towards regulation of cryptocurrencies. And what happens, take a look at this chart here. Bitcoin just shoots up.
I know.
Based on Gensler saying he wants to regulate it, and he wants it to be classified as a security. Now, despite the response of the market, does not the evolution of cryptocurrencies towards being deemed a security, does that constitute a catalyst to the upside for you or a catalyst to the downside?
Sounds like more regulation. Sounds like, let's take a look at...
How many securities...
Yeah.
How many companies classed as securities deliver a positive experience to their investors over the long term?
Yeah.
A very small handful.
Well, this doesn't do anything for you. This is just, based on the greater fool theory, right? This is like... we're only buying it for one reason. It's never going to pay a dividend. It's never going to do this. It's never going to do that. All it's going to do is...
I'm always going to have somebody who's willing to pay more to buy it off.
Yeah, that's...
Yeah, so that's a speculation, pure and simple. But that is the definition of a Ponzi scheme, is something that you can only benefit in if somebody else buys it. That is the very definition of a Ponzi scheme. So while crypto enthusiasts celebrate Gensler's move to regulate the currency, to me, that constitutes another nail in the coffin of cryptocurrency over the long term. I know people are making millions. You have a friend who bought some.
Well, I met a gentleman.
I met a gentleman.
Is
this the same guy with the motorcycle and the leather?
No. This guy is a guy that just heard a conversation, a Peter Schiff show, where there was somebody that he said the story was so compelling on Bitcoin, he thought he'd take a shot, and he bought it at $5 a coin. $5. $5, not 5,000.
$5.
$5. So at 5,000.
When was that? Like in 2009?
Well, maybe 3 or 4 years ago. Put up a 5-year chart. Put up a 5-year chart.
5-year chart?
Yeah, right there.
I think we're going to have to go a little bit further.
Whoa. Maybe in there.
What would have to be up? March.
What's the price there?
2017.
Yeah.
Wow, was it that cheap
I know.
recently?
And you know, bubbles, and I thought maybe that was the peak of the bubble, but look, it looks like sometimes things got to stay up about but apparently this guy made about $10 million. He got out way too early, in here somewhere he got out, or maybe even in here.
Yeah.
So he might have been in here and out here and made 5,000 times his money, or 1,000 times his money.
Jeez.
1,000 times your money. Can you imagine? You put up $1, take out 1,000.
Yeah.
Put up $10, take out 10,000.
Wow.
But look at, there's a guy in Toronto who lives at the top floor of the Trump Tower. We used to work with the Toronto Stock Exchange as a compliance, the main. Apparently, he's made $1 billion on this shit.
No kidding.
$1 billion. Duh.
Yeah. Well,
you know,
I think
he paid $23 million for his top 2 flat. I mean, can you imagine? I mean, some people get horseshoes, right?
Yeah.
Up there.
Right place, right time. Well, this is the thing. If you're in a position where you're able to suspend your belief and buy into something that makes no sense, chances are you're going to be a billionaire.
The big mistake I've made all along is thinking, because I had an accounting background, that you're not fooling me. But I always seem to get fooled ultimately. So why not get fooled on something? You know what I mean? Why do I have to
get fooled again? The who.
Yeah.
Anyways, here's a gentleman who's got some opinions about cryptocurrencies and NFTs. Cam Chell joins us now. He's the CEO of CurrencyWorks. Cameron Chell joins me now. He's the founder and executive chairman of CurrencyWorks Inc. Trades on the CSE under the symbol CWRK and trades in the United States under the symbol CWRK. Cam, welcome back.
Man, thanks. So great to be here with you always.
Yeah, you bet. It's always a pleasure. Cam, let's start with an overview. What is CurrencyWorks all about?
Well, CurrencyWorks is a blockchain. And so we specialize in financial services and servicing Fortune 5,000 companies and opportunities. So what that really means is that we are not an open source blockchain, meaning we do not have a developer community that contributes or builds or works on or has access to our blockchain. And the primary reason that we do that is that we're focused on providing products and services and platforms for Fortune 5,000 companies that require a blockchain that's compliant with existing banking and regulatory and securities regulations. So the types of products that we've launched for companies like the Kodak One or Gunbroker or now Bartch Auction Auto Auctions or Enderby Entertainment are all organizations that require that level of compliance and customer security and liability protection such that they can actually utilize these amazing blockchain technologies without having the overhang of the regulatory concerns or worries.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so then who's using the blockchain? What is it used for specifically? So you say it's a blockchain, it's not a cryptocurrency.
That's correct.
I see.
Yeah, no, we develop cryptocurrencies on our blockchain for customers. We develop stable coins. We develop security tokens. We develop payment systems. One of the most transacted stable coins in the world, called the Freedom Coin, is actually was built by us and is on the CurrencyWorks blockchain. And most recently, we're building NFT platforms for the likes of Bartch Auctions and Enderby Entertainments, and we just launched an entire movie as an NFT starring Anthony Hopkins. Yeah, now that's actually why when I saw the company and the overview, I was like, I really am not, I'm the biggest skeptic when it comes to cryptos and particularly NFTs, despite the fact that I have a great friend who is a photographer artist, and he has actually launched a few NFTs and gotten crazy money for stuff that he would have, gotten maybe a couple of $1,000s for. Now he's getting tens and $20,000s of dollars for this stuff as it gets bid up on blockchains that are carrying this NFT. The problem I have with NFTs is that, okay, so you're digitizing a creative work or something like that, or an event, and it's
its temporary nature has now been transferred into a virtual medium as opposed to a physical medium. Everything's temporary, and on a long enough timeline, everything is got a survival rate of 0, as they say on Zero Hedge. So what I don't understand is, how is it that the NFT universe, and by extension to some degree the crypto coin universe, how can they continue to expand and grow and offer an ever widening range of products, which is ultimately what they are, and continue to agglomerate value? It strikes me like it's got to be one big sort of like bubble, though arguably all of fiat currencies are a bubble. So I thought this is a conversation. I would have turned down this interview, but when I saw that you had put this together, I thought, well, this is a conversation I can have with Cam, and he's not going to get offended because I'm skeptical. He's going to listen to the argument and come back at me with some logical talking points that will probably change my mind. So how do you?
I don't know what that.
How do you reconcile that for skeptics like myself?
Yeah, so there's a plethora of questions and answers and concepts and context that you've brought up there. So really down to its very basic levels, a piece of digital content now on a blockchain can have scarcity. That's the number one point, is where before, if you put a piece of digital content out there, the ability to rip it and distribute it anywhere, no matter what, basically diminish the underlying value of an individual piece of content. Now, some would argue that the overriding value of that content has increased because the distribution has increased. And I would agree with that. If we look at the value of a piece of music, and the money that the artists are making, for example, as a piece of digital content, has been decimated. But if we look at the overall value of the music industry, if we look at the overall value of the movie industry as a whole, all of those things have expanded greatly because there's greater distribution. The underlying thing that's happening here with blockchain and digital content is now you can return the value to individual pieces or limited pieces of that content and take advantage of the fact that that market is so much bigger. So you've got greater value placed on music and movie and media, but very specific pieces of those content, you can actually put, defined value on it because there's scarcity around it. So that's just one piece. Now, before you jump in, let me just add, the second piece of this is now you've got a broader market to sell it to, because you can take that very specific piece of content and it's now very easily tradable. Because there's a marketplace that you and I and a billion other people that now have access to the internet can actually purchase it on. So if I'm a collector, and all of us have collector mentality, right? It's part of our tribal nature, right? It's part of how we identify with things from our childhood or things that identify our personal brand. So we all have it to some varying degree. So, just a simple example would be, if I'm a collector of baseball cards, I really did have a limited market of who I could trade it with, because I had to go to a baseball card, symposium or weekend, or I have to know the other people within that community. Now that community is so much larger. It just happens to live online in a digital format now, or on my phone or on my laptop, as opposed to go. And so, but we also have to realize that that's where people spend most of their time now. Right. I don't necessarily have people coming over to my private collection to look at my cars, or my private collection to look at my baseball cards. Not that it's not valuable, maybe it's even more valuable. But there's now this incredible value in the fact that where I live online, and certainly the younger generations are living online, right? That's where their social currency is. So to have a scarce piece of content that helps define their brand and value online is incredibly valuable to them. To the last point I think you made is all things equate to zero in terms of they don't live forever. If we think about those great pieces of art out there, whether it's a Warhol and pop art, or whether it's a Raphael or a Michelangelo, they certainly last more than generations. But presumably on a blockchain, they don't degrade, right? And there's always a permanent record of them. So the longevity of this actual piece of art is potentially, yet to be seen, but certainly theoretically longer than a physical piece of art. Sure. So therefore, could it even be more valuable? All speculative, of course, but valid nonetheless.
Sure. That's an interesting remark. That I've got to do some thinking before I even have a response for that. So then, is it then an NFT? So I look at, for example, Martin Shkreli, the executive who is ultimately sort of tossed out of the industry because of his usurious approach to raising the price of drugs, and also he had some problems with the SEC. But he bought the single copy of the Wu-Tang Clan's album, released in, I think it was 2013. And so I look at that as the seminal moment in NFTs, because really that's what that was. He bought the only copy of the album that was ever going to be made. And now so he gets to decide who can listen to it, how often they can listen to it. If you can only listen to it if you go over to his house, because he's never going to put it online or anything, because that might diminish the value. So is the NFTs kind of similar to that? If I was to, say, take a work of art that was an original digital creation of mine and sell it to a collector, does the collector then have the ability to say, well, if you want to see this piece of art, you've got to, give me $4.99 through PayPal, or you've got to, give me a 20% premium on the price I paid for it, because it is scarce digitally as well as, and doesn't exist physically. Is that the same way to think about this kind of stuff?
Well, it's highly complex. I would think of it a bit like, for sure, if his social currency is the fact that he wants to keep it to himself or herself so that nobody else can see it, that's their prerogative. I mean, IP protection is one of the underlying foundations or principles of our entire capital society. So not respecting IP or not coming up with ways to actually honor IP, right, it really diminishes the overall value of it. So I would say, however, that for most pieces of visual art, I guess there's three broad categories. But, for most pieces of visual art, people want to know that people who own it want people to know they own it. So sharing it with people is not really the issue. In fact, their currency generally goes up, right, from a social perspective, if it's the more people that know about it. So you'll see these NFTs shared everywhere. And in fact, the identification for the owner is that, wow, that's an incredible piece, and how many people have seen it and everything else, then it's owned by this person. Where and how they monetize it is entirely up to them, and they have different motivations to do it. And there's different pieces of NFT art. Like, the first, the first Twitter that was ever sent out, the person that owns that might have different motivation for putting it out there. So it's just like, think about it in terms of like, the person who collects a baseball card is different than necessarily a person that collects a classic car, who's different than a person that collects a Raphael. And all of those different things will be in there. Certainly the NFT market, right, is much greater than a fine art or a piece of crypto art. I mean, the NFTs can be used for tickets, they can be used for movies, they can be used for any type of digital content. And so you're going to see them being used in ways that are incredibly innovative and, in my opinion, provide much more value. So if I think about something like what we did with the Anthony Hopkins movie, somebody's getting a lot of people are getting an advanced copy of it that's totally unique, with incredible interviews, incredible outtakes. Actually, in one of the versions of the NFTs, you actually have the opportunity to be in the movie. So like there's real value in these things. And I think you'll see the NFT market move more and more to true value as opposed to maybe novel or trading value. Wow.
That's a lot of food for thought. And those are great points that have kind of got me rethinking my whole attitude at this point. I don't want to dwell on that though. So pulling all that together,
I'm halfway there with you. I got a little ways to go, but maybe we'll do another interview and we'll get another little chunk there.
We could. So tell me then, how does CurrencyWorks deliver value to its shareholders in the process of creating this blockchain technology and making it available to NFTs and different cryptocurrencies and whatnot?
Sounds well. There's a ton of ways, but maybe I'll focus in on one use case, which is specifically the development of Yuli, which is the NFT platform for the film industry. So if we think about Dapper Labs created an NFT platform for the NBA. It's called the NBA Top Shots. They've traded close to $1 billion worth of NFTs, which are generally specific and unique highlights from last night's basketball game, or memorabilia from the game, or evidence that you were at the game, or those types of scenarios. They do drops or releases. Drops is the new terminology. So they do drops of these. And if you're a special enough buyer, you've bought enough product, you move up in the queue, and you're able to get first pick at the highlights from last night or the special events, whatever it is, and you can buy them and purchase them, and then immediately go over to a market and trade and buy and sell them, right? And everybody has, they can display their collections, and they can trade the collections and buy their collections, just like a baseball card, except it's in a very, very rich format, and it's in a market that's now already much bigger than a traditional, sports card trading market. And so they've done that for the NBA. They just announced a deal with the NFL. It's probably one of the most valuable assets the NBA now has, because it gives them direct access to their fans. It's given them a whole new medium, a whole new reach with their fans. Within the next couple of years, it'll be bigger than the network television deals that they do, because as somebody who's watching the game on a television show, that fan base isn't doing $1 billion worth of trading of the cards and the moments that go along with it. It's now being tied into even the sports betting of things. Like it's being integrated very quickly into the whole ecosystem of sports. And so, and they've got a $7.6 billion valuation. They just raised another $250 million. I think they've reached close to $1 billion this year. And so CurrencyWorks also has its own blockchain, and we're targeting markets that are very, very collector centric. So we've done a deal with Barrett-Jackson for the car collector market. It's growing, and it's incredibly fascinating. And most of the buyers on it, believe it or not, James, are baby boomers. They're not crypto heads, and they're not millennials. It's really fascinating to watch. But in particular, in the film industry, on our blockchain, we're the only blockchain currently, and the only one I know that's in development, but we're done. We're able to take an entire film and feature it as an NFT. And so, to be able to launch with Enderby Entertainment, the Anthony Hopkins film, his first film since winning his second Oscar, we've got that entire film market that's looking to get early access. And we see this as a way for films being premiered. So it doesn't take away from theatrical, and it doesn't take away from streaming. This is another incremental revenue stream where fans can actually get closer and collect their movie memorabilia and early NFT releases, which is similar to how you used to get the director's edition Blu-ray cut or the director's edition DVD cut. And so that's how we deliver value. We own 50% of that platform, plus we're paid entirely to build it out, right? So we got a great revenue stream. And then every time one of these drops, right, we get a percentage of revenue. And every trade that happens thereafter, we get a percentage of revenue. So that's just one project as an example that we've launched in the film industry. And we've got multiple other partners now that have come to us and saying, hey, we want to launch, in the car collector industry, or we want to launch in ABC. I can't disclose all the rest of them that are coming, but we want to launch in these areas. And so we see that we're about to be driving absolutely huge value to our shareholders.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Cam, we could go on for hours about this because it's such a fascinating industry. It's new, it's emerging, and clearly, a lot of people just don't understand it. So we're going to have you back really soon, but we're going to leave it there for now. And I really appreciate your time and participation today.
Amazing as always. Thanks.
You bet. Bye for now. Anyway, so here's CurrencyWorks. It became CurrencyWorks somewhere back in here. Cam joined back in here, and the stock got up to $3.55 and has since sold off to where it sits today at 32 cents. Let's go to a 1 year look just to put that into perspective. Yeah.
But basic round trip. You have to buy a two-way. You're going there and you're coming back.
But as Cam says, it's really early days in this story, though. I'm going to have to be a fence sitter for now because...
the trend is clearly not in your favor as a buyer.
No.
It's just...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so, there you go. Anyway, so looking at the S&P today, it's up 1%. The Dow Jones is up 1.1%. The NASDAQ is up 1.2%. The 10-year is up at 1.568. So, like, this is starting to look like it's going to break out.
Yeah, the thing that you know, the 10-year rate, I don't think can go up if the world is really slowing down. You know, and maybe rising commodity prices will slow things down, but so far it doesn't look like it's happened. You know, like the numbers came out today on the unemployment, the whatever they're called, blah blah blah. Yeah, it looks like.
Yeah. Okay, so you know, to me the question is how long? Like, why? If they're printing money at $120 billion a month, which is fractionally banked out to $1.2 trillion a month, just in the United States, never mind Europe, never mind the UK.
Yeah.
Why is anybody paying anything for money? Like, why don't they just print money and give it to everybody? Because then people
they're worried about inflation.
Well, but that's inflation strikes me as a lesser problem than people on the streets committing crimes because they have no money. If everybody got some money.
Yeah, like a world income. Like, what do you call it?
Lower basic income.
Basic, like a world. Yeah. You're born. You're entitled to 10,000 a month. 10
grand a month. You could do some debt. 18 years old.
Yeah, but then the money would be worth shit.
What's it worth now?
Shit.
There you go.
But a better flavor.
Yeah, so I think we're heading into a commodities market. What do you say?
I agree.
This is hyperinflation.
I agree. Well, I think the hyperinflation is going to start kicking in. Yeah. And you know, there's shortages now. Yeah. They're talking about like dog food shortages in certain places.
Yeah.
They've got all these cargo ships off the coast of California that can't even get a spot to drop anchor. They just float around.
Because nobody wants to work in Alberta.
Well, there's that problem. Yeah, there's a shortage of workers.
Well, I'm not working. Are you working?
Not that kind of work.
This is work for us.
Yeah.
Actually, I went to buy 2 sump pits at the hardware store. Sump pits. And I needed some connecting stuff, and I went to the counter and said, hey, you seem to be out of these 4-inch perf pipe connectors. And the guy says, oh, anything made out of plastic is gone up in price and has become hard to get. I said, oh, really? And this stuff like is normally on every hardware store by the bushel.
And plastic comes from oil, doesn't it?
Well, plastic is many types of plastic are derived from hydrocarbons. The resin to use most plastic, polyethylene, polypropylene, polycarbonate, it's not. They're not making the resin.
You know, there's also this. You know, they're now worried that there's not enough energy because with all the conversion to green, but they cut off the oil and the carbons, and yet they haven't had enough of the other stuff. So now it looks like price of energy's got to go up.
Well, and the UK, they're lining up down the block for petrol.
And you know, like Europe, the price of natural gas in Europe has gone like fourfold.
Yeah.
Like fivefold. And now, you know, Putin's got the whole thing, you know, he says, I'll be your hero, I'll increase supplies. There's some funny things going on.
Yeah.
Not just the weather, but there's some supply and demand issues. I was in the grocery store the other day, and I tell you, there's some shelves that I normally go to that are empty.
Is that right?
Why are they empty?
Guys won't unload the boats because they're getting free checks. They're stimmies.
And you know how many times you drive on the road and you see a transport that says, we need drivers?
Oh, I see that all the time.
All the time.
Yeah, there's no money in that. Like, you make nothing driving a truck.
Well,
anyways, let's talk about the price of lumber, Ed, because I went to the lumber desk the same day I went to buy my sump pits and said, you know, why has the price of lumber come down? You told me a month ago that it wasn't going to be coming down because you had to chew through all your retail supply, the inventory you bought back in May when the price was up at $1,700. Well, guess what? The price of 2x4s and plywood has finally come down. I've still got a stack of 70 4x8, 3/4 inch birch plywood.
Nice stuff.
Yeah, the furniture grade stuff that I couldn't bring myself to use it as sheeting. But back in the height of the pricing, the sheeting, the low grade, low quality 3/4 inch sheeting, which you use to cover roofs and floors, was $120 a sheet at the local retail level, and this birch stuff was at $80 a sheet. So I bought it, I still couldn't bring myself to put that stuff down under shingles or under flooring, and I ended up going and buying the $120 stuff anyway. Anyways, insanity. So the question is, I paused construction and said I'm going to wait till March 2022 to resume construction because I think the price of lumber is going to come off. And it did come off, but the retail price has just started coming off as the commodity price starts to rise.
Put up a 3 month. Put up a 3 month. Yeah, right there. I want to see that. See that? You see this action here? We got to this level, and and now we're back to the level. But this time, it looks like there may be a little more stick to it. And if it gets through there, you've got another one of these free. If they can get through about 680, 690, we're getting close. 700. Yeah. We may just shoot back up to 800 or 900.
Yeah.
That's how I see that chart. Anyway, we'll see.
Well, so it's going to go that way. Whoops. Let's drag this. Whoa.
Oh. Yeah, there's a lot of nice tools on that trading view.
Yeah.
And there's some tools that use it.
Anyway, so this chart tells you that the price of lumber is going higher?
I think it is. Well, you know what? Let's see what it looks like in a week.
So this might be the time to buy my inventory for next year's build.
Yeah. Might be.
Might be.
Might be.
Okay, well, I'm going to have to sell some stock then. All right, our next guest is the CEO of Sweet Earth Holdings, trading on the, where is it trading? It's trading on the CSE under the symbol SE. Here's Peter Espig. Peter Espig joins me now. He's the CEO of Sweet Earth Holdings Corp. Trades on the CSE under the symbol SE. Peter, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You bet. It's a pleasure. Peter, let's start with an overview. What is the business model of Sweet Earth Holdings?
Yeah, so Sweet Earth, we are we function in the CBD market, but we're unique in that we don't do so. We're a farm to shelf platform. Where we start with the farms and end up in the shelf. But I would say what really makes us unique is our emphasis on the research side of product development. So you have a lot of groups that focus on what they have is they're good farmers, or then you've got good marketers. And I think what we did is, and that could be because of my oncology background, where we really focus on the efficacy and the bioavailability of our CBD products, and that's how we kind of make our products that we sell to the market. And it's obviously because of the emphasis, I think, on research that we've won so many awards for our products.
I'm a huge fan of CBD. In fact, you just reminded me I forgot to do my daily drops today, but I'll do that right after. So in which markets do you operate?
So we have three types of products. They're sold in retail stores in the United States, online, both US, Canada, and EU. And so we have three main lines. One is our CBD, like skin body care line, which is under Sweet Earth, sweetearthskincare.com. The other is pet treats. So we have a pet treat line of CBD pet treats. And then we have a CBD pre-roll, which is, and people could say, well, if you're a health company, why would you have, pre-rolls, which is, kind of akin to cigarette, like they look like cigarettes, whereas the rest of your products are all health. And the answer to that is that CBD pre-rolls are very good and very effective in helping people quit smoking. And the bioavailability of inhaling is actually greater than ingesting. Like if you'd mentioned you take CBD oils, well, remember that when you take a CBD oil, it goes into your digestive system, it goes through your liver, through your kidneys. So you're not getting 100% of the efficacy of the CBD. Whereas if you inhale it, it goes directly into your bloodstream. So it's quicker and stronger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do have a canister full of CBD dominant weed that I do smoke some evenings when I really need an extra relaxation. But so then in CBD products, tell us more about the company structure, like how long has it been around? What's your sort of sales volume like?
So we've been around, so the company, so the core group have been around for 20 years.
Wow.
And they started out in California, Oregon, in the medical marijuana, in the medical marijuana business. And they kind of developed more and more, of a passion towards CBD based on the health side, because we're a bunch of health nuts. And so they kind of went that way. And then I got involved because my background, so, I was an investment banker, but I've done turnaround all over the world. But what I do really well is building platforms. So I was an independent director, and when we talked about the direction of the company, I would say, well, I think we should do this, and set out a plan. And then they just finally said, well, can you lead us as a CEO? So I took over the role of CEO in June of 2020. The core team have been around for 20 years. Our products, we started really developing in 2019. And before we actually sold one product, we spent a year of R&D, which is not, in the CBD, because it's almost like their microbrewery sector. Like, there's so many mom and pop stores that, they think that making a CBD cream is like baking a cake. Well, it's not. I mean, baking a cake is something you eat and it's all based on taste, whereas CBD the reason people buy it is they want some medical or some proven type of benefit. And so we kind of started in 2019. We went down that path, and we started launching our products in 2020 in March. And the recent article in Women's World, which featured there was a feature on Sweet Earth in Women's World magazine. And after that, we've seen our sales kind of triple to up to 5 times. So we on good days we have sales of $8,000 a day, US, and that doesn't include the retail, because we are in retail stores in California and Oregon, but that's typically what our sales volume is. But we're starting to see that increase.
Sure. So then, is Sweet Earth a profitable company at this point?
Well, we're cash flow neutral. So, and I say that like we're not a nonprofit, but we're at a point right now where, and this is my philosophy, that if you, I've seen in a lot of sectors, so in my career, which goes back, 20, 25 years, where if you look at a new type of technology, whether it be computers or tech or phones or was I going to say the cloud or things like that. Like, if you do not aspire to be a top 5 player in the world, you never will be. So, you have to have instilled that you're going to be a top 5 player. And that doesn't guarantee that you will be, but you have to dream big in order to become big. And so what we do is, the reason I say we're cash flow neutral is that when money comes in, we use that for expansion. So we do, if there is profit left over, that's developing the brand, because ultimately, we're in this not to be a commodity. We're in this to be, a high-end, product company with a strong brand. And that's why when money comes in, we put it back out again in advertising and consumer awareness and R&D. We spend quite a bit of money on research.
Right. Okay. So then, in terms of achieving your top 5 ambition, where are you at?
Yeah. I think we're certainly on the path. What we did, what is also unique is, and I know you've heard this term a lot when people say we're vertically integrated, and I think that vertical integration is kind of an overused term. When you start out in a new sector, if you look at the CBD sector and you say, okay, you got farms, you got R&D for your seeds, you're farming, you're harvesting, you're drying, you're doing product development, product creation, then you're manufacturing, marketing, shipping. Like, nobody can have all those specialties or be an expert in that. So what we did very quickly is, for example, like our spa products. If you look at our spa products, and if you go to the website, you can see it's quite well done. It looks very professional. But, rather than trying to create our own products, what we did is, like, from the beginning, I should say, from scratch, is we reached out to like the #1 spa in California. and we said, and they've been in business 30 years, and we said, look, here's what we'd like to do. We'll buy exclusively our spot products from you. We'll do a lot of research on the efficacy of and R&D on the efficacy of that, blended CBD with your cream. You can sell our product, we'll be exclusive to yours, and that's a partnership. So we vertically integrated through partnership. So, I would say that right now in the CBD sector, because there are no major players, I like to think we're top 5, but again, it's a very fragmented sector. And I think what we're going to see going forward is, the winners and losers, the ones that shouldn't be there are going to start disappearing. And it's going to be consumer driven, because the consumer wants a product they know that works. And so when you go online, a lot of the products that are available aren't necessarily backed by, medical science or data that really shows that they work. So on that side, I would put us top 5, but again, we're not where we want to be. We still got a long ways to go.
Sure. All right, Peter, let's leave it there for now. That's a great introduction to the company. We'll come back to you in due course and follow up. Thanks for your time today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Bye for now. So Sweet Earth Holdings, as I recall, great story, but as I said in my other disclosure, it's got way too many shares out at cheap prices, and this is why you're seeing this. This is a stock going terminal in my view. We'll see. We'll keep an eye on it. Anyways, so
that's not a chart that makes you want to go out and rush out and buy.
No.
I mean, it could follow along. It could just base for a year. You don't know. You don't know.
All right, let's take a lock at copper here, Ed.
Yeah.
Because copper's been really kind of volatile. Range bound between $4 and $4.30.
Yeah.
After coming off of a multi-year high of
there was a high back in May, I believe.
Okay. Well, I see what's going on. I'm on the 3-month. Let's go to the 1-year look.
There
Okay.
you go.
So touched 488 May 11th. Since backed off to 425. The Fed transmitting throughout all this that inflation is transitory. Copper is a great representative of inflation, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because when the economy is firing on all cylinders, things are being built and everything's wired with copper. So
sure.
In this day and age, so to see this price holding in here, it looks like a level of consolidation in here.
You know what? There's a downward channel there, and then there's a channel here. And I think if it's getting close to some kind of meaningful change in direction. Either it's going to break down or break higher. The longer it stays here, I think the answer is it's going higher.
Yeah. So the commodity price inflation is not transitory. It's just simmering. It's like that volcano in Spain, La Palma.
In the Canary Islands. Yeah.
Did you know that the river of lava is now over 1 kilometer wide? Like, holy cow, talk about waking up to Armageddon.
I
feel really fortunate about living in Ontario, We don't have earthquakes.
Yeah.
We don't have tornadoes.
Right.
Well, we have the odd tornado.
We have the odd tornado.
The odd tornado, but they're never like devastating whole swaths of countryside. We never have earthquakes. We never have hurricanes.
Yeah.
When was the last hurricane we had in Ontario?
There was one in
60s, was it? Hurricane Ethel?
Hurricane, I don't know, but it would. The big damage with hurricanes, obviously, is the water swell. Like the water thing is the terrible thing.
Storm surge. Yeah, well, I've been dealing with a lot of water on my property.
Yeah, you say the area here has been extremely wet.
Yeah, this has been an extraordinarily wet year. Well, the corn farmers are ecstatic because their corn is absolutely massive. In fact, one gentleman who has quite a large number of fields told me that this is the best corn year he's ever seen.
So the price of corn is going to get
decimated. Yeah. And, right now the farmers are celebrating, but none of them are selling corn because obviously it's too soon. Anyways, but look at the prices of commodities here, like oil. Starting to head towards $80. I heard a prediction saying it could hit 200.
Yeah, well, they've switched from carbon to green, and yet I don't think they had enough energy here with the green. And now because they've cut back on the carbon, oil is starting to catch a serious bid. Natural gas has caught a bid. natural gas in Europe has got a serious bid. Yeah, you know. And
what about the Baltic Dry Index?
Yeah.
Let's go look at that. So this is one of the stories that I think is very important to be following, because the Baltic Dry Index is the index of dry shipping containers and what the cost of those is.
That's a 1 year?
This is 1 year.
Put up a 5 year.
All right.
Get a better picture here.
A 5 year. There you go. So there's the story. This is where inflation is happening, is the constriction. So all these containers of steel, like shipping containers, I bought a 40-footer last year, had it delivered for $4,200, B grade. This year I bought an A grade 20-footer. The first one cost me $6,400. The second one cost me $8,200. That's how fast the price of
those containers
are why.
Good thing they're not easy to move, or else people will be coming over and trying to steal them.
Well, it's a good thing they're so heavy. Yeah.
Wow, look at that. Hey, that looks.
Well, this is
wow.
This is
a
precursor to
that's
inflation.
500.
Yeah.
And that's wow.
Yeah.
That's
so
9 times. 10, 11 times.
Yeah. So this tells you something. This tells you that, you know, the price of shipping isn't coming down anytime soon. So
all this has got to get passed on.
Exactly. So this is what I think is actually behind the price of oil.
And the other thing, I guess one of the you know, the deep discount stores like Dollar Store, and there's a few of them, right?
Dollar General.
Yeah, one of them came out and said no more $1 products. Our products are now going to go from $1.25 to $1.50, and they can't pass on. They got to pass on the cost of their goods. So now you go to Dollar Store, no more $1.25, $1.50. That's how it starts. And they were talking about that on CNBC, saying, you know, this is an indication that it isn't transitory.
It's permanent. It's just getting ready.
Well, it's
getting warmed up.
Yeah.
All right. Well, okay. So that's commodities. So next up is Josh Bartch. He's the CEO of Mydecine Holdings, which was the company I made reference to earlier that switched from cannabis to psychedelics. My next guest is Josh Bartch. He's the CEO and chairman of Mydecine Innovations Group, trades on the NEO exchange under the symbol MYCO, and in the United States under the symbol MYCOF. Josh, welcome.
Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
Josh, it's great to have you here. Josh, let's start with an overview. What is the business of Mydecine?
Sure. So Mydecine Innovations Group is a biotechnology and digital technology company looking to treat addiction and different mental health disorders, more specifically PTSD, utilizing a variety of different psychedelic molecules. Additionally, we have a digital health and digital therapeutics platform by the name of MindLeap Health.
Okay, and so then are you in the business of supplying pharmaceutical medicines to patients of PTSD?
So not currently. We're a clinical stage biotechnology company. So we're currently in a phase 2A clinical study for PTSD, utilizing psilocybin-assisted psychotherapy. And we have several second-generation novel molecules as well that are essentially improvements on the first generation of molecules.
I see. And so at this point, is there a revenue stream for the company, or are you sort of in the development stage?
So for the most part, we're in the development stage. With that being said, we do have our technology platform, MindLeap Health, which offers a significant short-term revenue potential. It's a subscription model as well as a percentage base on actually facilitating HD telehealth psychedelic integration meetings between accredited therapists and different patients, whether those are patients attending ketamine clinics globally or attending retreats or different synthesis retreats, et cetera, depending on where they are in the globe. We can supply and have over 135 trained and accredited professionals specifically trained in psychedelic integration, both pre and post, that are actively on the application using and interacting with patients.
I see. And are mental health professionals at this point prescribing psychedelic molecules for treatment of PTSD?
Off-label, there's ketamine use, but that's really it. So, the vast majority of, and it's important to also note that there's not a single pharmaceutical drug in or outside of psychedelic medicine that's actually manufactured for PTSD. So at this point, it's all off-label use for PTSD, which is, a ridiculous statement, but it's unfortunately true. But there is off-label use of ketamine currently being used for PTSD. And then obviously, MAPS with their MDMA treatment currently in phase 3 is showing very successful results, upwards of 67% remission on PTSD patients as well. So we believe, true psychedelic medicine, being MDMA, that will be the first to come to market via MAPS.
Mm-hmm. I've had some exposure to MDMA, and it certainly, I like to think, was a preventative effect towards anything like PTSD, depression. In fact, I credit my sunny disposition generally with a healthy exposure to all of the psychedelics as a youngster. But what is the scientific sort of effect of the psilocybin or the MDMA molecules on the brain that causes PTSD trauma to be ameliorated?
Sure. So there's two different interactions. One is a serotonin releasing agent, and one is a serotonin agonist, and they act in different ways, but we think have similar outcomes. With that being said, we also have a MYCO 003 product, which is a combination of the two in very specific ratios. Now, with that being said, so MDMA, the effects and kind of treatment protocols of MDMA is what's happening in the therapeutic setting or a therapy setting. It's allowing the patient to be more open, more receptive, feel more comfortable to talk about deep-rooted trauma openly. And in many cases, that's a suppressed trauma or a suppressed incident that now they feel okay and comfortable talking about in that therapeutic setting. And what's happening is when they're able to actually openly discuss that with their therapist, you're seeing huge and highly successful results because you're actually dealing with the underlying problem at the core of the problem. What you're seeing in psilocybin is during the actual acute phase or the actual interaction with the drug, in many cases, your eyes are covered. You're not really interacting or speaking that much with the therapist, but you're having this deeply introspective event where you're looking and viewing whatever the situation was that caused your PTSD in hopefully a different light. And then after the event, you have neuroplasticity taking place, where you have new brain waves and new different synapses connecting, where you're able to kind of tailor that, look at that experience and whatever the root of your problem in a different light, change the perception on that, and actually rewire your brain kind of in perpetuity, so you're able to live a much healthier life moving forward. So different approaches, but both highly effective for sure in the therapy setting.
Yeah. Wow. So that's what happened. I wonder. It's really interesting to me that the taboo has come off of all of these formerly Schedule I drugs, and they're making their way into the mainstream. But how soon do you think until the prescription of psychedelic molecules is normal? I mean, we're in the clinical research phase, and MAPS is sort of the pinnacle of that, and that's where I look. But it doesn't seem like it's moving that fast.
Sure. So I think you really have two parts of the equation. And the first is the educational piece, right? You're taking a historically taboo substance or substances, really, that have been portrayed in mainstream media over the last 3, 4, 5 decades, as these radical, hallucinogenic, hippie drugs that are going to turn you, a psychopath for the rest of your life. That's not true, but educating the general public on the therapeutic effects as well as the safety profiles, which are significantly better than the vast majority of the pharmaceuticals that are currently available, is an uphill battle, and it's going to take time, money, efforts, collaboration, and ultimately really strong data and results and good players that are taking place in the administration of these drugs. The second limiting factor that I think is going to be a slow rollout as well is addressing some of the scalability issues that requires very unique infrastructure to actually administer these different treatments. And most notably is the half-life, right? You're looking at extremely long and extended half-lives for the known psychedelics. So, MDMA, 6 to 10 hours, requires a significant amount of man hours to be applied towards a single treatment. Additionally, psilocybin carries a long half-life. LSD carries the longest half-life, upwards of 12 hours, right? These are very hard to scale, for one, but also requires a very unique infrastructure. So they're not applicable in the general therapy setting or a therapist office or the corner doctor's office, right? Once you can address those problems, which we're actively doing at Mydecine, and there's a number of other companies looking at controlling the delivery times, uptake times, half-life times, et cetera, to make them much more conducive in the traditional corner doctor's office or your physician's office, your therapist's office, that can really increase where patients have access to these different treatments, but also allows many more physicians, psychotherapists, traditional therapists to actually provide this as a treatment. So when that happens, it's going to be much more a part of the everyday conversation, right? Instead of them looking, just to their go-to SSRIs, they're going to say, we also have this other option that we can do here that I'm comfortable with, that we do, and it's been very successful in a number of patients, right? So there's going to be a supply and demand issue for sure, and it's more so going to be related to the therapists and the trained professionals that actually know how to administer these different treatments and provide it, and also the platforms where they can actually, receive that. But again, as time goes along and the second generation of more refined drug comes out to market, I think that curve will continue to increase and ultimately will, hopefully shift completely over to this new form of treatment.
Sure. Interesting. Josh, I have to ask, just because our audience is all investors, and this is the question that people are going to ask me. So the company has 239 million shares outstanding. Most recent quarter reported a 4 cents per share loss. I understand that drug development companies are often required to lose a lot of money before they get to the finish line. But I think it's important to give CEOs like yourself a chance to explain to my viewers why there's so many shares outstanding and the company's still losing money. What would you say to them to make them investors in your company?
Yeah, sure. So I think what you want to look at is probably market cap as it pertains to market size, addressable market size. So a favorable report that they can reference was put out by a well-known analyst in Elmer Pires. He's a PhD. He's at Roth Capital. He came out with a $3 price target. And really what that predominantly was focused on is only our lead initiative, which is a phase 2-3 seamless clinical study that's a partnership with Johns Hopkins addressing smoking cessation utilizing psilocybin. And what we're showing in the efficacy rates that are coming out of that study are over 3 to 5x what's currently available of Chantix or a nicotine patch, with a much safer drug. It's a much more effective drug. When you look at the addressable market, it's projected to be $64.5 billion by 2026, right? So that report gave us 0.5% of the overall addressable market, right? So, given the upside potential of one of our drugs being successful, you're looking at a multiple dollar stock, right? At bare minimum, these are blockbuster drug potentials. And again, we have many more drugs in the pipeline that we're currently developing that all carry similar potential, right? So the upside, and it's also very important to note that we're not shooting in the dark here, right? We have incredible clinical data that's showing that we're on the path to be very successful, and we have a very high likelihood of being successful. So, the road to get there in any drug development, generally speaking, is a long, long road. It's also important to note where we're at in our drug development. We believe that we'll have a drug on the market by 2024, which is incredibly short in the overall period of traditional drug development. So For us, we don't pay attention necessarily to current market price. We look at what we're addressing and obviously, focus on how we get there. And we think that we have a very, very clear path to get there, and the right partners and infrastructure to do so.
You bet. That's a great response, and it's a great opportunity. I'm so excited about the psychedelics. Josh, we're going to leave it there for now, but we will come back to you in due course, and I thank you for your participation today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
You bet. Bye for now. So, this guy, he's got 30 million shares, and he's got options. He paid cash for the 30 million, and he has not been a seller since he got started.
Well, and the base period there looks quite a bit longer.
Yeah.
But I think you still need to see the thing start to break some trend lines.
Well, but if they get FDA approval on any of their molecules, could be Katie barred the door.
Katie barred the door.
Yeah. So a lot of stock out on this company. Speculative buy down here, but the CEO is sticking with the program, and to me, that's a good sign. When talking about back to the energy complex, just for a moment, uranium. Uranium's been on a bit of a tear. Uranium?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I hear that they're getting ready to build a whole bunch of uranium plants finally.
Yeah. France, I guess, gets most of their energy from nuclear reactors.
Yeah.
And I guess
take a look at Uranium Energy Corp.
And I put up
that's a good sign.
Put up let's put up a 5-year.
Oh yeah.
There you go. Still doesn't, we've had the act now. Is it a double top, triple top? I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, well,
but it's had a move.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks like it could go higher. Uranium. Well, this is the thing. All the commodities are starting to look good. And I think the stock market's in for a bit of a correction. So it might be time to get out of stocks, technologies.
Yeah. Oh, we got a little leak here. No.
This show is sponsored by Voxtur Analytics, trades on the TSX Venture under the symbol VXTR. I am a shareholder and I have options. And I sold some stock today in Voxtur because it was the only thing that I had that I could sell.
now I see it's back to around $1.
Yeah.
It's hanging in really well. I mean,
let's pull up a chart. Well, I had Gary on last week for quite an extensive interview, and he was talking about the acquisition of this Real Wealth Technologies. Now, you normally, when the acquiring company always goes down, right? And the acquired company goes up if it's publicly traded. Real Wealth is not publicly traded, so we didn't see that. But before the announcement, they were trading at $1.13, $1.10 up here. After the announcement, they're still holding their own at $1 down here, so that's all good.
No, it seems like it could be. This CEO seems like the real deal, right?
Yeah,
he's committed. Yeah, Facebook's been in the news.
Oh, let's pull up a chart of that.
Facebook, I guess there was a 60-minute show, and there's a whistleblower.
A whistleblower. Now that strikes me as kind of, I guess. You must have canceled their options or something, because why the hell would you blow the whistle on Facebook if you look at that?
Maybe you got out of your paper.
Wow.
Where is it at right now?
333.03.
Okay, that's a big drop.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's I think 333, $50 drop. $50 drop on that is about 1 over 7. 14%, 13, 14. So look, but you know what? As somebody pointed out, this is a company vital to small business. Like if you're only working with, let's say, a 100-mile radius and you got a small business, Facebook or Google is your answer.
Yeah. Well, look at us. We're on Facebook. People are watching us on Facebook right now.
Hey, Facebook went down.
Facebook went down.
The next day. The day after she's on 60 Minutes blowing the whistle on whatever. I guess it's the AI and how it affects kids and children.
Well, and how they use their data.
Yeah, but look, what a story. I remember you could have bought this thing $20-25 a share.
Yeah.
Yeah,
well, coulda, woulda, shoulda.
Look at this.
Yeah, but that's quite a...
It's already 8 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was a young whippersnapper 8 years ago.
Yeah. Anyways, that's our show for this week. Hope you enjoyed it. Write us at jwest at Midas Letter, Midas Letter at Midas Letter, anywhere. Yeah. Send us love, click and follow.
Yeah.
Watch the shit out of us.
It's going to get very energetic.